Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Robert Menzies, CAMA chairperson. Welcome to the fourth year, hard to believe, of CAMA's Next in Agri-Food webinar series. And today we're furthering the use of AI in marketing, which should be a great topic for us. This series is continuing as an example of living out our evolved mandate, representing Canada's entire food system from farm to fork, and really what the hot topics are for our agri-food marketers and communicators across the country. In addition, hopefully you've heard that CAMA has embarked on a restructuring journey to transition from a provincial chapter-based model to a unified national organization. We've established a single, cohesive national board representing members from coast to coast. The national board structure will allow for provincial leadership still and representation to ensure members are represented from across the country. This strategic change is focused on strengthening the sustainability of CAMA, amplifying our support for our members, and positioning the organization for long-term growth. While we move towards a national framework, CAMA will continue to host beloved provincial events, offering the same local connections while delivering additional benefits through shared resources, broader knowledge exchange, and national collaboration. By being a CAMA member, of course, you can reap all of these benefits. Next up in the series, which is on March 27th, we'll be having the Building Brands That Talk to the Hearts of the Consumer with Carolyn Shaw and Ryan Hughes with Humanity. Should be a very interesting session. And finally, on April 24th, we'll discuss the Agri-Marketing Digital Benchmark Report with Eric Posma, founder of Measured Digital. We encourage you to check out these events on our website at the blogs, events, and insight page at cama.org. Also, please, hopefully by now you're all following and engaging with us on LinkedIn, but if not, please follow us on LinkedIn, see what's happening across the country in our industry. It's the best resource to keep in touch with what's going on. We'd also like to thank our webinar series sponsors for Next in Agri-Food, CABIF and Top Crop Manager. Their support not only supports our webinar series, but also CAMA as a whole in implementing and expanding our offerings to our members. We'd also like to acknowledge and recognize our industry partners who have joined the CAMA National Sustainability Partner Program now for a third year in a row. These inaugural partners are committed to our ongoing focus of ensuring CAMA continues to be a dynamic, credible, and relevant organization for Canada's agri-food marketers and communicators. Our 4 committed members are AdFarm, Bayer, McCann, and Real Agriculture. Thank you to these companies for their ongoing support. And finally, a few housekeeping items just for the sake of our webinar today. Your questions, please type them into the chat box in the control panel. You'll find that at the bottom of your screen, hopefully. We'll answer the questions at the end of the presentation. However, we're going to learn from our speaker today. He's pretty engaging, and so he's going to be wanting to talk to us really during the entire presentation, engaging with us. So feel free to put those questions as they come into your minds anytime during the session. We'll probably kind of get to them throughout the session. The webinar will be recorded, and the link will be emailed to participants within 24 hours of the webinar today. And we're going to be covering a lot of topics, so it'd be good to go back to that recording session. We'll also be sending you a follow-up survey to gather your input on this webinar today and obtain feedback from you for future CAMA events and what you're looking for. Now to introduce today's speaker, Doug Foley is the president of Giant Goat, which is a visionary who has consistently pioneered the integration of AI in the sales domain, especially tailored for the agri-food sector. His insights have transformed businesses, leading them to new heights of efficiency and profitability. You'll probably remember Doug because he was our webinar speaker last year, and we're thrilled to have him back with CAMA. We're pleased to have Doug share his insights on using AI in marketing and further in that discussion. And as we've already shared in the chat, a link to Doug's AI playbook. This is a great guide to all things ChatGPT for marketing. It really is a great tool for providing direction on everyday work tasks as well as marketing tasks. So grab that link before you leave as a great professional development resource. Doug is also going to encourage us to take advantage of the time that we have with him today. So if you're dealing with any issues, any troubleshooting that you're looking for where you are with your AI journey within your workplace, throw them in there and he's going to address them kind of as they appear. So please take advantage of that time. So with that, I'll welcome Doug to this virtual stage. Doug.
Robert, thank you so much for having me. Mary, CAMA, it's always a pleasure to be back. And everybody attending, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy days. One thing I will ask, if you can just say hello quickly in the chat box, just let me know where you're from and your favorite AI tool. That way we can make sure everybody is in there and able to use the tool. Your chat box might be buried, so you might hit the three little dots in the more section to get in there. But if you don't mind, just let me know where you're from and your favorite tool. And then as I'm going through this, please feel free to ask any questions as I'm going. We don't have to wait to the end. This will be a little bit of a different presentation. We are going to go through the playbook. We are also going to stop and I'm going to show you how we use it on a mobile device day in, day out, and give you some of the tips, tricks. Just get the most out of ChatGPT you can. If you have some questions on other tools, I see a lot of Perplexity there. That's awesome. I will tell you, Perplexity was one of the original search tools. So before chat was able to access the internet, Perplexity was one of my favorites. So awesome. We got a lot of people in the middle of the country here. Awesome. I'm glad everyone's diving in the chat. Please, again, ask questions as you go. You should see a link on the right-hand side for the Notion board. I will tell you that Notion is probably one of my favorite tools for note taking. Their AI tools are really great. It also implements well. So you should have a link to that. But this is where we are going to start today. So this is the playbook. You can have this. I typically will make updates to this playbook as I find new tools or new ways to integrate it. But the first thing I want to talk through today is really the focus on prompting. Most people, when they first start playing with, they're told, oh, you got to learn how to prompt or become a prompt engineer. The good news for you is prompting is pretty much dead. And as long as you know how to interact and be conversational, you'll be able to interact with chat in a much, much different way. It's going to enable you to basically speak to it and figure out how to ask it for specific tasks. And I know if you weren't in the first session we did last year or any of the other sessions we've done since, the best way to think about chat is as an extension of your team or another resource on your team. And if you work with it like a member of your team and talk with it as a member of your team, you'll be able to start to build a relationship and leverage the machine learning that's happening in the background. And I'm going to show you an example here of how we use it. And I'll be honest, I'm on the road an awful lot. So I have this companion I take with me. It's called ChatGPT, and I have the opportunity to chat with it pretty regularly. And just give me a second here while this loads. Somebody in the chat, just do me a favor. Let me know when you see an iPhone screen.
Not yet, Doug.
Okay.
No worries. Take your time. Let me know when you're ready.
See, chat's already kicking in for you.
There we go.
Hey, ChatGPT, it's good to see you again. I'm doing a presentation right now, and we're working on a live demo to show people how to get the most out of ChatGPT. Are you ready?
Absolutely. I'm ready. What do you need help with?
I think the first thing we're going to start with is we want to explain to people what are the different modes or the different options you have when we're trying to figure out how to get started. What's the best one to use if I need to start brainstorming?
For brainstorming, the best mode is usually the chat interface. It's conversational and interactive, making it easy to generate and refine ideas. You can also use the custom instructions option to tailor responses to your specific needs. This flexibility makes it great for brainstorming sessions.
So I can just talk to you while I'm driving and you can help me brainstorm?
Exactly. You can just chat with me hands-free, and I'll help you generate and organize ideas. It's like having a brainstorming partner on the go.
That's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. If you need anything else, just let me know.
So one of the first things that I will say, the most easy and simplest thing to do is hit this little button you see down here in the bottom right-hand corner, right here. So you're going to be able to literally talk with and brainstorm with ChatGPT. And one of the other things, and let me see if this is hidden on the share. I'm just going to hit a new chat and see if this pops up here. But one of the new things you'll be able to do at the top is you'll be able to select the options for different modes. So one of the questions I started to ask her is which particular model do you want to use? I'm just going to switch over to desktop here so you can see it a little more seamlessly. So when you're working within ChatGPT, there's a number of models, and these are what they would call learning models. So these are used to do very different things as you go through it. And we put this little table in the chart so you'll know exactly what to use. But one of the biggest challenges I see most people getting stuck with is they're not happy with the responses or the quality of the response they get. That's often fixed if you just simply use the right model. Most of the time, and I would say 80% of the time, I'm just using Chat GPT 4.0. And that's when I was talking to Chat there, when I'm driving or trying to brainstorm or work through something, that's what I use most often. If you're looking, and you may not see some of these, so this, I am on the pro version, so I do have additional models here. But one of the things you'll see here, if you need advanced reasoning, so for example, if you're going deeper into the rationale of how something works, or you want to expand on a model, this is something that you could start to look at here. If you're looking at coding or you want to analyze data, O3 is really, really strong for that. The easiest way to access that's twofold. You can either hit the drop down if you're in a chat here and just select the different models, or when you select new chat here on your phone, you can change what they are. One other thing to really understand well, your version, or when you're logged into chat, it starts to develop a memory. So it will remember conversations that you had. If you just want to ask a quick question and you don't want to necessarily ruin it, and this is also if you're sharing an account, you'll start to get what are called hallucinations. And that is when you're having a conversation, the feedback from the chat's kind of off or it doesn't seem to make sense. The more you use this, the more it starts to learn what you're trying to do, how you speak, your nuances, even past conversations. So if you're sharing it, let's say you have a marketing team, there's 3 people, and you all use it slightly differently, you're going to start to notice some of the responses may not make sense. If you're doing something quick and you don't want to mess up that memory or progress, you simply can turn on a temporary chat. Very similar to an incognito window in Chrome or Safari, where you're just using something quick or you need to turn off a cookie so it's not memorizing that. This is where you would use that. It would start to develop and you can just keep it dedicated to this thing. When it comes to privacy, I know this is a big thing for a lot of clients. They're, concerned with sharing data or data being held exclusively. When you sign up for chat, there are a number of paid options. If you are doing any particular client work or working with sensitive data, either the team version or the enterprise version will allow you to preserve, and it does not train the broader model. It sticks inside those instances. So tends to be a common question that we have, but that is one thing I'll tell you. If you're going to work with sensitive data, I would make sure you are signed into a team account so you're not sharing that publicly. Any questions so far? Have been able to navigate that? Awesome. Next big piece we want to go into, so you'll see this table here. You'll be able to access the models, what they're used for. We can go through some examples during the Q&A period and some additional tools. One of the things, and this is where I really wanted to focus most of our time today, is show you how to build a custom GPT. So on the left-hand side, you will see a number of tools. Now, this is typically only available to the people on the paid piece or on the paid membership. These are a number of custom GPTs. So we had built the Doug bot, my team and I, almost 18 months ago when we were just experimenting, it was kind of a dare. It's like, well, you should go build this. And what this tool does that's very different from the other models is it allows you to create essentially a virtual assistant or virtual extension of yourself. And you're able to do that by creating something called knowledge bases. So I'm just going to go into the edit side of this, and then we'll create one from scratch. So if any of you have ideas on what type of custom GP you want, content, data analytics, just throw that in the chat. We can use that as a live example. In the back end of this, there are a number of things that we typically may need help with. Might be a product launch, a marketing strategy, brainstorming. And we have trained this GPT with a number of databases that allow it to understand works that I've done, different frameworks that we leverage. So if you have a specific tool or a resource, or you have a proprietary process either at your company or your agency, you can train these custom GPTs. And if we have any marketing agencies on here, these actually can become really powerful lead gen tools. You can actually embed responses to have responses to a landing page or an offer and drive people back to do some type of call. So these are really great tools to put out there to drive leads to yourselves. If, for example, you need a really quick, lightweight tool to help customers, you can create or usually get this to solve a particular problem and then drive them to book a call. Really simple way to use custom GPTs. Let me just circle back to chat. If anybody wants to see something specific, otherwise I'll just make a general content one so you can learn exactly how we build them. Beauty. Okay, so to build a custom GPT, we are going to build one that is specific for marketing. So we actually built a GPT builder and a persona builder. The first place we want to start is understand before we go build this, who we're talking to. So this particular GPT, you can go into the GPT store and search this, helps us walk through a series of steps to build out our persona. And I know there's a lot of marketers on this call. I know a lot of times, we get them from some clients. They're 50% of the way there. We'll often use this particular tool to build out who our personas are or expand on what they are and get clients to approve them. But this is really powerful for helping us work with clients so that we know, hey, this is who we're talking to. This is the context we're going to speak to these people in. So when we build a custom GPT, it really dives deep into exactly, hey, we know who they are, we know their problem sets, and we know how to speak with them. So we're going to pick this. I'm going to say we're speaking to a millennial farmer. And what this will do, it'll work through a series of steps for us so we can figure out what they do. Now, given this is a demo, I'm just going to say this is a demo and ask it to fill out the information. For yourselves, this particular exercise is really effective if you're onboarding somebody or you want to learn more about a client, or you just need help filling in things that it probably generate knowledge just to get a starting point. So I'm just going to ask it to fill it in for me. And one thing you'll notice, a lot of times you're going to see these green check marks. That is very characteristic when it's in model 4.0. You'll see this all the time. That's how you can tell. If you want to get rid of that, that's when if you upgrade to Pro, it'll write it in proper English. So if you want to get rid of some of those things, that's the easiest way to do it. It gets rid of most of the emojis. But so that's phase one. So one of the things when we talk about creating custom GPTs, this has a number of steps or a framework that we have built called our perfect persona. So this is going to go through 4 stages. So we are now just going to ask it to move on to phase 2. If you already have a persona and you're ready to go, you can always skip this step. You can go right into creating your custom one, but we find this is just a particular It's a good exercise to go through to identify some key steps and who these people may be. One small thing you may see if you are using this particular tool. We're just going to ask it to give it a name when it's done. One other small tool or suggestion when you're doing this, if you have existing data, you can always drop in simply by hitting this upload. You can drop in any other PDFs. So if you have existing information, you can always say, hey, here's what we have to date. Let's walk through the particular exercises. So we'll have it go through phase 3. Just out of curiosity, do we have anybody from Precision Ag in here? I think Jake is your ideal customer. Okay, so now we are going to go to phase 4. What I have done, just for an example, I'm going to cut and paste phase 4 so you can see a part of the framework. When you're creating a persona, even if you had one and you just wanted to start from scratch, the elements that are in phase 4 are the most powerful. They are what help us develop probably some of the core tenets that really produce great responses from a custom GPT. And it's simply because of this highlighted section here. The why me, why this, why you, why now, and why not categories are incredibly powerful for giving a custom GPT context of who somebody is and how to position a product or service. So even if you skipped all the other ones, just using this phase 4 of the persona framework is really powerful to give context to any type of marketing, brainstorming, collateral. Whether you're trying to do social or email or sales copy, this part is incredibly powerful. And I know that this seems very meta in terms of we're doing things that stack. The main point of this exercise is we have to give a custom GPT, or even if you just wanted to use something like this in a conversation with the standard chat, giving it a persona and a tone document is really going to help it produce higher quality outputs. So there's less editing for you on the back end. Okay. Now I'm not going too deep in these. I'm scanning them just to see if they're close on the outcomes. But just, maybe if you don't mind in the chat, how many of you, if you're in the marketing realm, get details like this from clients that actually share this level of depth on who their customers are? Nobody. I don't know if that's a good or bad answer. So now that we have this, so we have this complete thing, what I'm going to ask it to do is compile this list into one cohesive document. While that's doing that, are there any questions so far on the process? Any additional things that we should prepare to show you in as we go through? I'm going to leave that open in another window. And what I'm going to do is start the process of building out the GPT. So we have a builder bot. It's called the GPT Builder, and this is designed to give us a really strong initial prompt. If I went right into the process and started to build a custom GPT, I have to answer a number of questions. What this is going to allow us to do is jumpstart this process. We had a question here. Thanks, Rhett. Is this within a proprietary chat or is this general? You've already spoke to this. We are going to create a proprietary tool, which is called a custom GPT. You can use personas in just a general chat. So for example, I'm just going to start a new chat here. If I wanted to say, hey, can you help me create a campaign targeting this person? I can simply go right here and I can choose to upload. We have this marketer persona. I can now say, hey, can you help me create a marketing campaign for this persona? No problem. So you can use it. So if you're not upgrading, you're just using the standard version, you can upload PDFs and use that. But if you have the paid version, you can go ahead and create custom GPTs, which are going to save you a ton of time. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to switch back now that this is done. I'm just going to hit this button here. So the bottom tools here, I can edit this. I'm not sure if many of you know this, but if you find something's off, you don't have to reproduce it. You can actually click this button and go in and just edit these things while this is open. So they now have an editing function available to you. So I'm just going to go back. I'm going to copy this. I'm just going to drop this in a Word document real quick and save it. And then we can pull that back in. Yes. So Paul, you've asked, yes, we can get it to export Word documents. I find cutting and pasting is just a little cleaner formatting. So it does export Excel documents. It does export PDFs and Word documents. I've just had challenges in formatting. Also why I use Notion over Google Docs or Word. Cutting and pasting from the web version of ChatGPT tends to keep most of the formatting pretty clean, but you can ask it to export it and we'll show that example. So as Paul was asking, you can ask for particular formats and they can do it. It typically will do it well as an Excel file. You can see the error message right there. But I have seen it create it in Excel if I'm working with tables. But Perplexity also does that really well. So now we're going to switch over to the GPT Builder bot. I'm going to say I am the marketing manager for Acme Seed. I need to create a social media GPT for the attached persona. And I'm just going to upload the marketing persona or the farmer persona we just built. And this will give me the initial prompt. Okay, so this is giving me all the steps. I'm just going to ask it to give me the initial prompt. And in a new window here, I am just going to go down, hit Explore GPTs. And then in the top right corner, you can see this button that says Create. You're going to get that and you will be right here. And this is where we're going to start making our custom GPT. And one thing you'll notice, this is significantly more detailed than I would probably write if I just prompted it on my own. So this has context now on who my persona is, where they are, some typical things that would be common in the industry. My prompts and my outputs are likely going to be different than yours because mine has been trained over the last 3 years of how I use it. So there is a little bit more depth there. But generally speaking, if you're using this GPT Builder bot, it's going to give you something with this type of depth. So I'm just going to go in. I'm going to copy and paste this initial prompt over in here, and we'll get started a little faster. As you can tell, I probably would not type this. More often than not, I will typically just talk to it using the mobile function or the desktop option. I find that a lot quicker. The next step, I think it's going to ask to design a logo for me. Once this saves. Okay. One thing I would suggest at each step of this while you're building, your first iteration, once it has that information, I would click the create button. You'll see different options. If you are signed up or signed into a team version, you will have the options to share these with members of your team. So for ours, when we're building these for clients, we'll have these to brand teams. They can build them out. They're incredibly powerful. I'm just going to leave this open. So if you want to play with it, I can share the link afterwards. We'll just put it in the store. You just look for that there. We'll save it. It's kind of like saving your work in the old days of Word before it had autosave. I'm going to open that in a new window and just show you the difference. So this is now the live one. So I can go in here. You can see it pre-built some of the standard templates I would use here in the bottom. And then if I go back, this tool in here is the training mode. This is where you can test it and see how does it work. So let's just say, can you create a Instagram ad for our farm tour event? Okay. Now this is where you have an opportunity to help ask it to go further. So over here on the left-hand side, when it creates these posts, I'd like it to ask or give me a piece of or an image with it. So I'm just going to see if we can train it to make that adjustment. So we are telling it, say, hey, if somebody is asking for a social post, it's going to ask if they want an image. So I'm going to save this prompt and we're going to update it again. So we're going to use the exact same prompt just to see if it does it any differently. Okay, so now it's started over. It's trying to do its thing. Let's see if it follows through. Now, the best way if you're going through this training process is to think of this again like an employee. So this is someone here designed to help assist you with some of the tasks. Here you go. Would you like me to generate an image? Yes. Now, I will tell you, the image capabilities that come along with anything in ChatGPT, they're not my favorite. We will typically use tools like Midjourney or Photoshop or produce original ones, but that's arguably that's not bad. It looks like his paint ran on the sign a little bit. Might be a rainy day before he got set up, but regardless, he's pretty close. The intent's there, and you can see how just one little training step has come a long way as it pertains to building a custom GPT and making sure it has steps. If you have a particular framework or an SOP, for example, one of the things that you can do is have it follow a specific example. So, hey, here are our brand standards, or here is a tone document. Those are things that can help it speak more like you so it doesn't seem bland or does not seem consistent. And the way you do that is you upload a tone document or an SOP, or you can simply cut and paste it. So one of the tools that we have is a framework that is specific to how copywriting works. So I'm going to drop in an example here. So it's pretty long, but what it allows us to do is train on specific copywriting standards. Or I can upload it as a PDF. So I can either cut and paste and ingrain it, or I can upload a PDF. So I will just export that and drop that in so you can see how it saves that. So we are going to add this document here. And just to give you some context, I'll open up the document just so you can see its depth. So what we do in the background, so more often than not, we find it effective to help embed frameworks or instructions for a custom GPT to follow. So anytime we're using one that writes for us, we use this particular framework right here. It talks about all of the different types, when to use it, how to use it. So ADA, PASS, the before and after bridge, this is really effective. The 4Ps, you name it. So what it does is goes through what they are, how to use them, and more importantly, when to use them. So when we build a copywriting a bot, we'll make sure that it understands that your job is to write really effective or persuasive copy, to make sure that you understand how and when to use these. So I'm just going to switch back to that GPT that we're building. And we're going to upgrade this. Just hit send. Same thing in this. If you wanted to upload, your product database or anything, anything that's not overly proprietary, but just things that would be general knowledge, you can also ask it, hey, can you please comb our website and get all the information about our products? So you're using public facing data, and it can start to build the knowledge base from there. But once this is updated, one thing I always go and do is just check and see, hey, did it grab it and save it? So you'll see in its knowledge base, all of these things are here. If you just want to do a bit of a dump and you have additional frameworks, you can add them or upload the files simply there by hitting that. So if you have reference images that you would like it to pull from, your product files, etc., you can put this information here. I have found you get much better results when you train this one at a time and test it. For the purpose of today, we're not going to go through that process, but the more time you spend going back and forth in this back end setting here, the stronger the GPT is. So we're just going to hit a quick update. And then we'll go view GPT. So now we're in the public version of it. And now we're just going to say, okay, so now you can see the change because we have trained it on copywriting frameworks. It has already adapted and it is using something that's proven to convert to adjust the copy. It understands who we are as a company because we trained that in the initial steps, and it knows who we're talking to because we've given it the persona. Okay, and now it's just writing this here. I know we want to leave some time for questions and answers. I tried to move through this quickly. Robert, anybody, if you just want to pop them in the chat section and just want to leave it open for more troubleshooting things. But the main reason I wanted you to understand the evolution, number one, today, if you're using the right chat model, so number one, when you hop in there and you are picking a new chat, so now you can see all that contents there. Number one is making sure that you are using the right mode for the right task. So if you are trying to create code or logic, you can use 3. If you're using your custom GPTs or want to create a custom GPT, you can do so on the left-hand side. All of those tools, they are available. I will cut and paste this and drop this back in the chat for anybody who is late joining. All those instructions and all the different things, even if you just want to cut and paste this particular table here, this will help you save a ton of time, especially if you're using the app. And the biggest thing I tell you, if you want a really high performing GPT instance, talk with it. You know, use that app on your phone, hit the button, even just talking prompts in instead of trying to type the perfect prompt. You'll get much, much further ahead, much faster. And we're seeing that same thing be consistent across all platforms. Grok just released Grok 3 and they have voice chat. That is going a long, long way. There are some cut and paste prompts in here. So if you want to grab those, it's from the web page. You can just hit the copy button, drop them in. So this will help you speed up that process. So this entire playbook, I'm just going to drop this in the chat for everybody so you'll be able to take advantage of it. And now we can open it up to questions.
Thank you, Doug. I'm going to start us off. I want to just pick up on what you just said, which was the verbal prompts. So other than, is it a speed thing for you, or is it something else that you think that verbal prompts are better than something that's been typed in to an interface?
The biggest piece is just understanding the back end structure of how most LLMs are built. They're language learning models. That's what LLM stands for. So the more you speak with it and go back and forth, the depths of the learning increases. If you are doing something very hyper specific, you can still engineer prompts and get better outputs. But the more you use the same platform and go back and forth, and the better the memory gets, it literally is learning your behavior and can get you to an end state much, much faster. If you are starting absolutely cold from zero, or you're using a temporary chat, you may benefit by using a particular prompt infrastructure. And actually, just this morning, one of the heads of OpenAI, they produced a prompt framework which anybody can copy. It's on the front page of their site, but I'll drop a screenshot of that into that playbook for everybody.
Okay. I think you kind of addressed a question that I was about to put into the chat, but I thought I'm just going to wait and talk to you about it. But so I'll just say what my question is, and I'll kind of answer it, and then you can elaborate for me. So can you address the potential perceived uniqueness limitations, meaning what it gives back to you, what it's capable of generating? And I can see how the context of personas can be beneficial. So I guess like, am I on the right path here that the more you feed it, and you mentioned like read their website and other marketing or brand related resources you can put into it, the better the outcome is basically is that what you're saying?
Yeah, very much so. And that's why we typically will use custom GPTs more often. We build them for clients, or sometimes they just ask us to use them for efficiency. But what it allows you to do is have a richer context for it to start from. You know, it's not just using the hundreds of millions of chats of everybody else on how to speak to a farmer. It knows specifically, how do you as a brand or you as an individual talk to your customers? What's the commonality of the problems you solve, but your products solve? So most of the frameworks, there's a book written in the 1950s by Eugene Schwartz called Breakthrough Advertising. And in that book, he talks about a framework called Upside. We have found a huge difference in training our GPTs on using something like the Upside framework, or any number of frameworks you want to use. You might be a duct tape marketing person. You know, whatever those frameworks are, if you layer in a framework with a persona and your brand tone, it's going to produce something for you that it will not produce for anybody else. You know, it would be the same thing as if you were to if you were to train a copywriter. Almost everybody goes through English learning, you know, Shakespeare and how he wrote books, or they might look at Pixar's playbook for how to write or tell a story, or the hero's journey. Everybody works from a framework, but differentiating it by training it on who you are as a brand and how you speak is how you avoid from getting the similar standard content everybody else does.
Okay. And that goes back to, I think, the beginning of the conversation where I think you said that basically treating it as another team member. So you wouldn't bring a new team member into your operation without giving them any context as to what you're marketing or what you're trying to do. So treat that the same way with your AI.
100%. Yeah. If I
Are
had
there
an intern with no instruction, they wouldn't produce the best outcome. Same thing with chat.
Okay. Are there limitless inputs that you can put into it?
What do you mean by that?
So we talked about personas, we talked about the frameworks, but is there like limitless? You can pretty much feed it.
Yeah, I think you are limited to 10 or 25 knowledge bases, but the training is pretty limitless. And if the more you use it, the better it gets. It does have somewhat of a brain of its own. You are limited to the knowledge base, so you need to be specific on how much data is there. When you get into the point where you're going to feed AI thousands of documents or inputs, that's when you go from something that's a custom GPT to something called an agent. An agent is an API that basically functions the same, but they will typically work through, you know, they're able to integrate with a data set through an API, process the data, and they're in some type of marketing automation or workflow. So in a custom GPT, yes, it's limited. If you're looking for more custom applications, they are limitless. So long as you have the computing power and budget to process the data, it will continue to go.
Okay. For someone, and based on some of the beginning where people were putting where they were from and what tools they were using, I don't have a sense of necessarily. Everyone's probably all over the place in terms of don't know what you're talking about, all the way to like this is part of their daily life. And so, but if you are just starting out, like, is the so I'm thinking about last year's presentation and then this year with the custom, and then is it kind of like the paid version is just kind of a must now?
In my perspective, yes. Like
Yeah.
it's, it's becoming a daily part of every life. It's funny, I coach a lot of my kids' sports and we have it for using it for everything from, hey, help me create like a plan for this coaching season and figure out some plays all the way through to using it at work every day. It is becoming as functional of a requirement as understanding how to use word processing.
Yeah.
It has become a necessity in most jobs. And the $20 a month, I can promise, just from what I've shared today, if you use that $20 a month will be a no-brainer.
Hmm. Within your playbook that you've given us as a resource for today, you have some other AI platforms in there, and we saw some in the chat too when people first joined. So can you talk a little bit about, like, a lot of people seem to be going to the words the chat GPT angle, but can you kind of talk a little bit about some of the other tools out there? I think from an image
Absolutely.
and maybe image, and you mentioned that ChatGPT is not the best for image development, and I know a lot of people are using, as I think it was mentioned by someone, Photoshop. And so, yeah, talk to us a little bit about that from an image standpoint.
Yeah. So I'll circle back to the image thing because I will tell you nothing can beat Photoshop. Like in Adobe in general, if you're in the marketing agency in the Adobe space, I would double down on the Adobe tools and master them. The way they're integrating things, the way they're involving in video. If you run an Adobe shop, you're in good spot. Double down on Adobe, master it, master the workflows. In general, the other people, what I would encourage you is look at the tools and match the AI tool to the platform. And I'll give you a couple of sections. If you're going to be running Google ads, go use Google Gemini. Ask it the best practices. How do I set this up? How do I optimize my Google Analytics? Use Google's tools to answer Google questions. If, for example, you want to know things about Meta, so Instagram, Facebook, or WhatsApp, go use the Meta AI. It's going to give you the most rich context. And Grok, if you want to know about Twitter, go use Grok. The caveat I will give you that I've been surprised with lately is Grok's ability to do deep research on trending topics, albeit it's only been out for about a week now, has been pretty profound. And the accuracy of data on deep research is pretty staggering. Perplexity is an unbelievable research tool. It helps cite data and cite sources. That's another one. But at the end of the day, you have to figure out you're going to be really good at one platform. I would recommend ChatGPT. You can leverage the other platforms and use them for their specific sources. So, for example, if we were launching a campaign, more often than not, when we're all doing the ad component, we'll go to Google Ads, have it vet it, and then we bring it back into chat and say, okay, develop this client playbook. This is the ads that's been approved or recommended by Google, and we just produce one cohesive go-to-market strategy that's in those particular platforms. Same for Meta or other platforms. But number one, match the platforms. Number two, get comfortable and good with really one because you're essentially training up your own LLM and it's going to learn how you speak. But if you can find ways to integrate it day in, day out, it'll become a skill set that just adds value to you as a professional.
I want to talk a little bit about what you see coming down the pipe, but maybe we'll leave that for a little bit later. I want to talk about sales and how sales and marketing. So we talk about that in the marketing world all the time, right? About how sales and marketing dance or don't dance together, and
Yep.
it's different in every organization. Can you talk to us a little bit about how a marketer could be using this to support the sales activities within an organization?
It's funny you mentioned we just actually finished a large sales enablement with a large player in the crop protection space. And we actually used AI to process over 80 field interviews from the sales team to understand the
Mhm.
critical components in the customer journey and turn that into a tool that marketing can say, hey, how can we best support our peers on the sales side? And how can we better empower sales enablement? And how do we create campaigns on these key elements that happen in the journey? The funny thing, and I see this all the time in ag, it's more often there's some key events, like physical events. So part of the tools we create are how can we help market or support the marketing around these given events? And those custom GPTs are trained on what they are, what's expected, what are key moments. So it can do everything from emails to invitations to sales collateral. And really, you can create a sales enablement bot that understands the customer journey and helps empower both teams to get on the same page and just work
Mhm.
towards a better, more efficient way to go to market.
In that particular case, was it a salesperson that was coming to you, like a director of sales, or a director of marketing that initiated that project?
No, we worked with the C-suite. It was more of a top-down approach. They were trying to one, figure out what's an efficient way for us to use AI or to get started, and number two, I think that's a commonality across anybody who sells through trade channel is helping bring those two teams to work better and better every day. I think it's probably one of the most consistent challenges we see in the industry.
In terms of the topic of saving time and efficiency, so you mentioned either before we started the webinar or just as we started about oh, I think you mentioned it. So when you're in the car traveling a lot, you can have that brainstorm with yourself and your ChatGPT team member. So that I think you've given a good example today of in terms of marketing efficiency. But what are some other tasks or of automation that you use in your daily life that you think really anyone in a professional environment should be using?
In a professional environment, it'll typically mirror the organization or the organizational department. So you're going to have, your content marketing, things that are creative. So you'll typically sit within there, everything from your social content. I think that's where most people are comfortable is all things marketing. The ones that are often missed that are huge advantages is data and analytics, like being able to serve any data pile. That's actually its sweet spot. It's better at analyzing data than anything else or searching and sourcing data. So almost every platform now has deep search capabilities. So you can do third-party research in a flash and get really insightful data to help guide a direction. And then the other piece is operations, and this is massive. And this will probably be the next 5 to 8 years of where AI goes. And that is either automating tasks or helping you create procedures to make sure tasks are done consistently. That is a huge piece that's often underlooked at the power of AI because it wants to do things the same all the time. So you can help it create checklists or processes, or you could give it a process and say, hey, how do I make this process more efficient? And I have yet to see it fail. It's really good at figuring out what steps are missing and how to make something more efficient. So that's it. After that, it can go into automation. So the pro version, and this is a little creepy, you can actually have it's called operator mode. I think this might only be available in the US right now. I could literally tell Chad, hey, can you go find me a flight to Denver tomorrow on Delta? I don't want to leave before 6 a.m. And it'll literally run in the background. It's connected to my Delta account. It'll book it for me. I don't have to do anything. I can just literally talk to it and it'll go do it. I don't have to do anything. It'll automate tasks. And that's the biggest improvement you'll see over the next 3 to 5 years.
Well,
If I
Mary's
was an accountant or a lawyer, I'd be terrified.
yeah. Well, I think probably lots of professions, including marketing. Mary had a question in the chat, and it was a logistical question about upgrading from one version to another, and if you need to kind of start over when you're changing versions.
Yeah, I just recently made the upgrade to Pro and it maintained all my data. I wouldn't say definitively that it won't ever do that, but my experience, every time I've upgraded, it's preserved my data, my chats, my saved chats, and everything have not disappeared. The one caveat that we did experience, if you're upgrading from a professional to a Teams, there may be some data loss because you're basically going from an open environment to a closed environment. So that's the only caveat you have to watch is going between those two. But if you're just upgrading your own personal, I have not seen it delete any data.
Okay. Last question. Actually, two last questions, but I know we're at the hour now. Quickly, how should a marketer engage with Giant Goat? What
Best thing to do, you can either go to our site, you can reach out to us on social, or you can send me a DM on any social platform you find me, and we'll get you connected with our team.
what's the best way to start a relationship with Giant Goat if
Uh,
someone wants to get into this?
Yep, giantgoat.com. We have a form on our site, or reach out to us on Instagram or X.
I mean, more so from like a partnership perspective. So is it really like saying, "Hey, Doug, I need a custom chat GPT. Let's build that together for my
Yeah,
organization."
The
Is that
first
what you
step in
thought?
our process, we do something called an AI readiness assessment. So we'll sit down with your team, look at your customer journey, and help identify where do you as a professional and you as an organization get the greatest leverage right out of the gates. And then we just help prioritize what projects would be most beneficial to get the fastest return for you.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Doug.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
In lieu of a speaker gift, CAMA is going to be making a donation, Doug, in your name to CABIF. This donation will financially support deserving post-secondary students who are actively studying a career in agri-food. So the next generation of agri-food marketers and communicators within the food system. So I encourage each of us to consider supporting CABIF either as an organization or individually. I want to do another quick thank you to our sponsors for the webinar series. That would be Cabot and a Top Crop Manager. I want to thank everyone for participating today and supporting CAMA. If you'd like to learn more about CAMA, go to our website, cama.org. And thanks all for spending some time with us today. Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.